friends, I'm Rick. Little Missy's hovering around here somewhere. You know, it's said that the Templars dug under Solomon's temple for about 9 years, roughly from 1119 to 1128, and they did so because they were searching for something. And it's well documented, well known that in under Jerusalem specifically, but all throughout the Holy Land, but Jerusalem is just riddled with caverns or tunnel networks underneath the city, and these go back thousands of years. There are ones that have been, you know, dated back to pre-Bible, pre-biblical age. So they go back to the founding of the city. And it's suggested that the Templars were digging under Solomon's under Solomon's temple because they were told to do so because they would find artifacts of great power, specifically stuff that were biblically minded. And it's suggested that they found what they were looking for, and that they had found not one Ark of the Covenant, not one, but six. And they discovered proof that originally there were 10. So 4 are either missing or been destroyed. So 4 of these arks are missing. And if all the myth around the Ark of the Covenant is true, one ark is a powerful weapon or powerful tool. 10 would be massively powerful. Just saying. Amongst the stuff, what else could you know? They said they found the Emerald Tablet. Now, the Emerald Tablet is something that I've found curious over the years because, you know, it's the idea of writing on stone is ancient as stone and writing, because that's what that's very durable material to engrave things in if you want them to last. It's the story about the Emerald, the Emerald Tablet itself is a video unto itself, but I half wonder if the Emerald Tablet wasn't a device that was powered in a way. What if that thing is actually their version, an ancient artifact or an ancient civilization or an ancient alien tablet that's digital, like our digital taps today. If this had a power source, it would be able to do a lot more than what it says. One has to wonder, and I have to wonder if there hasn't been other people out there who have tried and experimented. The thing's out there somewhere. That's the problem. It's disappeared, supposedly. Nobody knows where it's at. The Templars whisked whatever it was they found, and a lot of the Templar treasure that people talk about wasn't the vast amount of gold and silver that they had accumulated through their mercantile trading networks and protection rackets or protection services they were offering pilgrims and stuff. They would become extremely wealthy by doing that. But don't be wrong, they were wealthy enough to make both the Catholic Pope and the frickin' what's his face, the damn French emperor jealous as all hell, enough to kill him. And just more or less dismantle the order in order to get their wealth, even though at the end of the day they didn't get that wealth because most of that wealth had disappeared. Different video from a different day. So the history, the implications are is the Templars, the Crusades had their own goal, but the Templars had their own goals within that goal. And when they got to the Holy Land, they got permission from the Christian ruler of the Holy Land of Jerusalem to go out there and look for artifacts, and that's what they supposedly found. And among them potentially was the Grail, the Spear of Destiny, and a couple other things that I should have wrote down that's not popping in my brain at the moment. The wondering of that is because there's, like I said, there's this fellow who's currently doing some videos on YouTube, and has been for the last a number of years, claims to be the grand Yahoo of the Templar Order, and everybody and anybody that says Templar Order as an order hasn't existed for hundreds of years. Yeah, there are offshoots. The Freemasons, who would vehemently deny that they have any ties to the Templars, depending on which one of them you talk to. The official stance of the Freemasons is they have nothing to do with Templars. The Rosicrucians and 2 or 3 other neo-religious organizations that were descendants of the Templar organization of that era. So we know that the Templars had a vast fleet, and they had the means and the resources and the resolve to move anything in a hurry if they wanted to. So they wanted to move that damn treasure, they could. And we know that there's implications that suggest that they took it to the New World, that they came all the way to or to the Americas to hide it. But what did they find? And did they find it? I find it interesting that a lot of the Grail history and the Ark of the Covenant, obviously, is so heavily tied to the stories in the Bible, but they go far beyond the Bible, which a lot of Christian dogma, a lot of Christian, mainstream Christians want to avoid it. They don't want to talk about it, or they just blow it off as, whatever. And the truth of the fact is that if you go back to their era, to their times, that was all real considerations for them. Just like everything we deal with today is our considerations. Think of all the crap that goes on in our modern era today that 300 years from now, nobody will even remember. They won't remember it. They won't know it. The only difference is that if assuming our society is still here in 300, we haven't technologically destroyed ourselves, or something else hasn't destroyed us, then we will have digital visual records of a lot of this stuff, which we don't have from antiquity, obviously. What we do have had to be, very durable material. So the idea that Templars had pre-knowledge of powerful items and artifacts or information, and I don't know that they knew it was artifacts or if it was just records or information or a hunch, but they seemed to know what they were looking for, and they knew they were looking for something. And they put, 9 years is a long time to dig under a city, under god-awful, who knows what kind of conditions that they were digging under. And 9 years to find this hidden catch also makes sense. Think about that. If they had gone in there and the story had sit there and said, "Hey, the Templars went into under the Solomon's Temple and boom, found all this stuff," then I would be more likely to go, "Yeah, sure, yeah, take it down the road, Chuck. Take it on down the road, Chuck. I ain't buying it." When they sit there and said, "Look, man, a whole bunch of dudes spent 9 years digging, crawling through a labyrinth of tunnels and digging through all kinds of crap, a lot of dead ends and wasted time and effort, and doing it on the down low, doing a very damn good job for 9 years of keeping it on the down low, because they sure hell didn't tell the ruler that the ruler of Jerusalem that was their intention. I'm sure of it. But the story they spun up and what they were doing with their actual goals, because the Templars once whatever it was they found, they got it out of the Holy Land ASAP. And then as an order, ironically, the Templar Order withdrew from the Holy Land in significant numbers after that. Their mission in the Holy Land was their secret mission was completed. They still did what they were doing for to protect pilgrims and so on and so forth, and they still had contingents there to help defend Jerusalem. But the rank and the rank and the heart of the order left. They suddenly found a different set of parameters. And it wasn't just these artifacts. Well, the artifacts are much wider because it's suggested. The thing is, who did the suggesting? Who suggests this? It's conjecture and hearsay and bits and pieces of people putting together. It's like putting together, getting get 10 jigsaw puzzles, those 1,000-piece ones. So you got 6,000 pieces. Or 10,000 pieces. Chuck them into a trash bag and shake them up real good, and then just pull them out one by one and reassemble all 10 pictures. How many years would that take you? How much dedication would that take you? So they said so the ark was supposed to be 1 of 10, and 6 of them were found. The Holy Grail was found. The Emerald Tablet was found. Ancient records of a lot of things that predate the Bible and predate, come from Atlantis. So stuff that nobody would believe and would have been considered the highest forms of heresy, with a guaranteed instant death as fast as they can do it. They also say they claim they found Jesus' bones. Not only Jesus' bones, but Mary Magdalene and John the Baptist, and the children of all three. So it's implied that Mary Magdalene, and this isn't the first time this has come up, that Mary Magdalene was more than just a reformed prostitute following Jesus' crew around. That she'd actually became Jesus's squeeze, and that they had children. Which, if you know anything about the religion of that era, that is quite acceptable. It would be expected for any male to that era to try to have a family, including holy men. This wasn't like an obscure monastic order society crap. That's bullshit. That's not what they say. So when Jesus is killed, he dies. This terminates the marriage to Mary Magdalene, and then she at some point hooks up with John the Baptist. And apparently this is before they off, because John the Baptist end up going to prison and getting killed or something. But the story, this is where we get the feminine thing. This is where the Grail thing comes in. And the Grail has been tossed around a lot over the years. Indiana Jones really, woke up some folks to that stuff and made you go, For those of you who weren't reading and following things of that, because a lot of the old stories, you go back to the stories from 100 years ago, the fiction, there was a lot of that. They wrote about things like that would be rivals to Indiana Jones. I mean, what was it? The Quartermain stories and things like that, right? Come out of that era. So the great era of exploration and discovery at the last century or so, the previous, the late 1800s. That's what I'm shooting for there, the late 1800s. So I guess it's 2 centuries ago now. They connect all this stuff together in some pretty odd ways, and it makes it difficult sometimes to buy any of it and to swallow into it. But there's a belief that the Grail itself was not actually a physical cup, unlike what's portrayed in the movie and in a lot of stories, but it is a symbol, a representation for the feminine, or in this case, Mary Magdalene. Because the very idea that Jesus had children by anybody is abhorrent to the 3 major Christian religions. Although Christianity of the 3, or more likely to be of the 3, to be swayed into the possibility, because Jesus was born as a human. He is the son of Christ, or the son of God, but he was born of physical parents. So he was born of a physical mother, at least, and grew up as a child. He was a child. There's stories of a 10-year-old Jesus doing stuff. So he was a child until he became the figure that everybody historically is known as. So the fact that he would have been human and a normal person to have a relationship and to have married and had children, to have done so with a reformed prostitute, a lot of people have issues with that idea. They have issues with the idea of Jesus having children at all, but then him hooking up with a prostitute. But you forget everything. This is one of the things that cheeses me off the most about some of the glib uses of our religion, of the Christian tenets today in America, in our politics, because they're showing their ignorance, but in spades. It's terrible. Jesus would never walk around with an AK-47. He sure as hell would not condone any of the violence and other bullshit that we're doing. And the whole point was, if you follow the moral tenets and if the man walked the walk he talked, if Jesus believed the very stuff he was preaching to other people, the idea that he would become intimately knowledgeable with a former prostitute is right up his alley. Because she was a reformed person. She was a saved person. She was, just saying. So there's this belief, and it's intimately tied with the Templars, that the Mary Magdalene line, the Jesus' bloodline, didn't die out. This is the kernel of the stuff that goes around the Da Vinci Code, angels and demons and things like that. So that. This is an old story. It goes back long before the movie was made. Obviously, the movie got the idea for it from his historical stories. So his bloodline still exists someplace in France, apparently. I mean, okay. Well, no offense, but Genghis Khan legacy is everywhere. It says every other person, you, me, Dupree, every other person in the world has direct descendant ties to Genghis Khan. because he was such a peripheral. I mean, he was a very busy, for a Khan, he was very, very busy. Probably more than once a day, just to have that many going around. But then we're talking the butterfly effect kind of thing too. This leads to this and this and this. So every time the generation gets thinner, but the connection's still there. By definition, by biblical definitions, we're all brothers and sisters. By biblical Christian belief and biblical freaking Muslim belief and Jewish belief too. We all are interconnected because we all descended from Adam and Eve. Cain and Abel kind of stuff, right? And they dance around where Cain and Abel's wives came from, because obviously they didn't marry any. It's not said that Adam and Eve had children, had more children. It didn't say that they had 7 or 8 or 20. It just said they had Cain and Abel, and they were both boys. So they didn't marry each other and have children. So they didn't have biological sisters to marry either. So they had to have married wives from somewhere, and it's implied that those wives came from lesser humans or some bullshit, or aliens, or fallen angels. It just goes in circles, right? It goes in circles. So you have to go and wonder, did the Templars actually do what they said? And I think they did. I think if that is the very sort of thing, they might have been looking for religious artifacts, and absolutely those, you get people that are extremely devout, they are more than happy to spend 9 years if they think they're going to find a relic digging for it, because that's part of their thing. That's their shtick. That just goes right up the alley with them. But what if they did? What if they did find all this? What if this story is anchored in fact? Increasingly, every couple of years a new find comes out. We now know for a fact, Göbekli Tepe or whatever the hell it is, and there's a couple other places they've found in recent decade that I can't begin to pronounce, that's made the circuit of the YouTube channels and stuff in various places, of settlements and human construction that predates modern era. Now, modern era says humanity's only 8,000 to 10,000 years old, but these are indications that it's much older than that, and that actually human society was much more broad and vibrant for a much longer period of time than our history books let us allow us to believe. And this is what makes me say that it's quite possible that there were other more advanced human races or civilizations, that entities that grew up in the past and then failed. It wouldn't take much. Like I said, we're just 30 seconds away from the end of the world just by some nut job with a button access to a nuclear button. Let alone the random asteroids and other geological and astronomical effects that take place on a galactically regular basis. I mean, every 36,000 years, 3,600 years or something, some catastrophic thing happens to the planet and resets everything. Well, that's kind of biblical unto itself, but it's feasible. We wrote, every morning the sun comes up, the world moves from from east to west, not west to south, or not west to south. The world's not spinning like this; it's spinning. That's hard facts, Jack. You don't have to like it. Still, so I look at that and I think, what if they did, and what are they trying to do, and what is the point, right? And where are they going with it? That fella keeps going on about how the whole world has changed. And I can't help but wonder just how much truth is in that. It's just like every now and then we'll find things that historically don't fit the bill. That just seems like it should be far too advanced for somebody of that era to have concocted. And then in my mind, I have to remind myself that every era has geniuses. It has technological wizards, has inventors who are crazy enough to say, I'm going to try anyway. No, you can't do that. That's impossible. Everything's impossible until you prove it isn't. It was thought impossible to go underwater, for an indefinite period of time, but we do it on a regular basis now. We have technology that lets us do it. It was thought man would never fly. It was impossible. Men are not birds. Men are not going. God did not intend for men to fly, and yet men found a way to fly, and we fly on a regular basis. Man cannot go into space, and we've been to space. Although there are plenty out there who claim we haven't. That's all bullshit. It's all fake. Just the things. We're not going to break the sound barrier, and we have. Well, we'll never go. We'll never go faster than the speed of light. Perhaps not. Perhaps not. Perhaps we will never go faster than light. But humans have a bad habit of finding ways around that. So we won't find a way to go faster than light. Perhaps we'll just find a way to go through it. We may live long enough to see it. Probably not. At the end of the day, it's some fantastic stuff. Beautiful stories. The connectivity, the possible, the what ifs are so vast and so many. The possible outcomes and scenarios just drive you crazy trying to keep track of it. Anyway, I'm me, you're you. Little Missy's around here somewhere. I'm done doing videos for today. It's Saturday. Tomorrow's Easter. So you're not likely to see this video for a week or two anyway. It's actually sun shining out there. It's supposed to get into the high 50s today. I'm going to get a couple things prepped. Spring will be here. Time to start prepping shit out in the yard kind of crap. Till next time. You guys have yourself a great and beautiful weekend.